guys, this is Diane here from Design Creative, and today I'm going to show you how to create a website with a left-hand sidebar like this one. And as you scroll, it sticks to the left-hand side, and it's quite a pretty site. It is quite a nice site. So look, if you make it smaller, it kind of pops up into this, let me get rid of this. It pops up into a top sticky header. When it gets to this view, you could see, there we go. So I'm going to show you how to create this in Elementor. One of the first things you need to do is go into templates, click add new, choose single page, and I'm going to call this shell because this is going to be the shell of my website, so to speak. Next, I'm going to go over here where it says settings, and I'm going to choose my page layout to be Elementor Canvas. And I want my preview setting to be a page called Monster because it's got loads of text on that page. So I'm going to apply and preview, and this is what you would see. Absolutely nothing. So I'm going to go back here, go to settings, and I'm going to add a nice background color, like a nice dark color. And to kick things off, we're going to start with 2 columns. So add a new section, 2 columns, and this column is going to be full width. If we come over here where it's got the layout, we want to change the columns gap to no gap and the height to 100 viewpoint height. Okay. And now we want to set the column position to stretch. I'm going to call this section. Next, I'm going to move this sidebar over to about here. And I'm going to show you what it looks like on tablet mode. So on tablet, this is what we see. And on mobile, this is what we see. So as you can see, we've got 2 big boxes here. And that's because we've got the minimum height set to 100 viewpoint height, and this is the viewport. Okay, so I'm going to put this back to 0, and let's go back to the tablet view. And to be fair, I don't actually want this column to be seen on tablet view. Another unfortunate situation is that Elementor does not have the ability to hide columns at its current stage. It doesn't have the ability to hide columns, but there is a plugin that I use by this company that allows you to hide columns as well as another bunch of like super funky stuff. I would definitely check them out. In this tutorial, I'm going to be using their plugin to hide the column, though you can of course use CSS if you want to by using media queries, but I'm personally going to be using this particular plugin. So here is our column, and I'm just going to click in the column section here to make sure that it's selected, or I can click in the navigator here. If you don't know where your navigator is, it should be down here. You could toggle it on and off. You're probably going to need to use this quite a bit in the tutorial, so I would definitely suggest taking out the navigator. Now, I'm in the settings of the column, and I want to hide this on tablet, and I want to hide this on mobile. Let's bring this back out a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is just add some text. This is going to be my logo. And I'm going to add a menu. Just the standard things that you would have within the side part. And let's say we're going to add a button in here, maybe even a form. or a login form or something like that. I'm going to add a little bit of padding within here as well. And if I click on style and typography, I could center everything if I want to. Let's just keep everything to the left for now. Let me just move this over, and I'm going to color the background of this column to a darker kind of black. And for this column, I'm going to change this to a red, just so we've got something to see. Okay, so as you can see, this hasn't changed yet, and that's because there's nothing in this column. So what I want to do is I want to drag out a post content module and drop that in there. And now you should be able to see the content from my monster page, which we was previewing, and the sidebar. Now let's have a look and see what this looks like on normally. Right, so now it's asking us, where do you want to display it? So I'm going to choose all singular, and I'm going to save and close. And now when I preview this, this is what our website looks like. Okay, I can scroll down and I've got my sidebar and I've got my text here. The text is actually quite horrible to read right now, so I'm just going to brighten that up a little bit so we could see what's going on. And if we make it smaller, you could see it kind of just disappears. Okay, so a few things happened, which is wrong, and that is we've got this sidebar here, or we've got this little section here, this gap that needs to be worked on. So this is what we need to do. We're going to go back to our column with all the text inside of it, and we're going to click on the tablet view. Remember, this section is not going to be here, even though it's shown on our screen. In real life, this section is not going to be here, but this side content doesn't quite know what's going on. So ideally, what we want to do is make sure that this content is full width. So we're going to click on the column and we're going to change the width of it to 100%. And then on on mobile, it's also going to be 100%. Okay. Now when we save that and we update it, if we come over here and we go to tablet view, we no longer have that gap. Okay, so that's good and well, but we don't have any type of, navigation when it gets to mobile, so we need to fix that. What we need to do in that behalf is add a inner section above, and I'm just going to copy the styling of this section and I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to copy the logo and I'm going to copy the navigation, and let's move it to tablet view. That's fine, but it's not really aligned. If you look at the logo and the menu, they're not properly aligned yet. So what we could do is click here, and where it's got content position, we can move that to middle, and that should align it a little bit more. Let's move that down to mobile view, and let's make sure that these columns are at 50%. So now it's all on one line. I'm going to change the color of this toggle button. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So now let's save that and let's see what that now looks like. That's perfect. All we need to do is make sure that we disable this for desktop. So we'll go back to the column or the section, and in the responsive area, we click on hide on desktop and we'll update that. And that should now be hidden. That's cool. But again, it's not particularly great. Like, for instance, I don't want this section to move. Because look, it just looks really crap when it gets to about here, right? It looks really bad. So what we could do is we can click on the column which has our navigation in it, and we're going to add a little bit of CSS to it. So I'm going to call this my nav sidebar. This is the ID. And in my custom CSS, I'm going to add a hashtag, nav sidebar. And I'm going to put the width at 300 pixels. Okay. Let's save that and see what we've done. Now when we refresh it, let's refresh that again. The nav is at 100 pixels. But we've got this gap that's come up again because why? This content is trying to adjust itself, or it's not adjusting itself properly now that we've given the left-hand column a fixed width. So what we need to do is make sure that we set a fixed width for the content section as well. So we'll click on the column. This is where the navigator gets really handy, because as you start moving things and start adding different positions and stuff to things, it becomes difficult to select it. So with this column, let's go into the advanced tab and we're going to call this content. And in here, we're going to give this content a width of 100 viewpoint width. And let's update that. We go back, everything is pushed and everything is aligned to how we want it. Another thing though, is that when we scroll down, the nav bar also scrolls down. With this one, when you scroll down, the nav bar stays. So for that, we need to add a little bit more position, or we need to add a little bit more CSS. Let's go back to the main column again, go to the advanced tab, click on custom CSS, and here we're going to put position fixed. Now anything with the position of fixed, you do have to specify the height and the width. So we've already specified the width, which is 300 pixels. And now we want the height to be 100 viewpoint height, or I say viewpoint, but it's viewport height. Okay. And we also want to give this a Z index of 1, because once we've added the fixed position over it, the main content will cover, it would literally cover the navigation and we wouldn't be able to see it. So let's save that and refresh it, and it's not worked. Let's have a look. It's because I spelt position wrong. There we go. Let's update and refresh. Doesn't look like anything's happened, but when you scroll, it sticks. Now there's one extra piece of CSS that we need to add. You may not notice it because originally all the text was flushed, but to be honest, the text is now sitting behind this menu. So what we have to do is move this content section over to the right, so then it fits in perfectly with the overall design. And the way that we do that is we go back into column, because if you have a look here, this is what it looks like in the back end, right? As you can see, we've got all of this stuff all over the place. It doesn't mimic the design at all. Don't be scared or worried about this, because Elementor is not basically rendering everything how we expect it to see it. But as you can see, the text is literally underneath the nav bar. So in order for us to move this, we'll click on the column and we'll go and we'll add 300 pixels to the left as margin, because that's how wide our menu is. So we'll put in 300 and now that's moved over. Let's update that. And if you refresh, now our content is actually moved over. And just to prove it, I'm going to add, let's see, where's our post content? I'm going to add a 20 pixel padding to the post content. So then you could see, there we go, the edges of the site. Now, I wouldn't recommend adding any padding to anywhere, okay? And in fact, I would make sure that this post content, it just doesn't have any padding at all, because as you could see here, this main picture is flushed directly to the left. If there was padding, it wouldn't be able to flush to the left. So make sure that you have no padding at all. So then when you do design a layout like this, you have more control over reaching the edges of the site. So we've gotten rid of the padding. We can update that. If we refresh now, we have a look. We can easily, oops, can you see? Because we've added that 300 pixel padding, we need to make sure that we add that 300 pixel, not padding, sorry, that 300 pixel margin. We need to make sure that we delete that 300 pixel margin on tablet and on the mobile too. So let's go back to the column, advanced. Am I in the right column? Let's see. Suppose, there we go. So we make sure that on tablet, it's set to 0, mobile was set to 0, and we update that. Now when we look at our site, it all works quite nicely. And the good thing about this is now that we've created it as a single archive, we can literally just go create a new page, call it whatever we want. We can publish this page and we could use Elementor and here we can't edit any of this section here. We can't edit that because that is now part of the template, but I can easily just go in and add my design. So just like here, if we scroll up, we've got this really nice area here. I can again just create something similar, minimum height, 100%, can add an image. Can add some text. Let's add very simple to do. Very simple. If I wanted 2 sections here and I wanted that to be white, super simple. So I hope this tutorial works for you. I hope if there's any issues, you contact me, let me know exactly what you're facing, if you are facing any issues. And that's it. That's how you create a website that has a sidebar that is responsive and is built with Elementor. See you soon. Bye.